This is Utah Hustlers, a podcast on how to build your business to $10,000 a month. I'm your host, Skylar Beindorf, an entrepreneur just like you, and it's my mission to help you accelerate your personal and business growth to and beyond 10 grand each month. Today in the studio, we have an expert on something you might be avoiding. Most people know this will increase their profit, grow their clientele, and help them get to that $10,000 a month and beyond, but you aren't doing it. And it's probably because you don't know how to start, it's outside of your comfort zone, or for whatever reason. It's possible you have done this or currently do this, but haven't seen many results from it. Okay, what is it? What are we talking about? Door-to-door sales. If you're already out there in neighborhoods with your clients already serving them, wouldn't it make sense to hit up their neighbors immediately after? Did you know their neighbors, friends, and family will immediately trust you as a business because you're working with someone they know? And while that's all well and good, and you probably knew all of that already, how do we actually knock on a door and create a sale from it? Well, that's where our guest today, Andy Holmes, comes in. He's knocked on thousands upon thousands of doors, closed thousands of deals that have generated millions of dollars, and is frankly one of the best out there when it comes to door-to-door sales. Today, we're talking about how to successfully sell door-to-door, how to choose the right neighborhoods, what to do when they first answer the door, what types of questions you should be asking, and so much more. So if you want more clients, more money, and more success, then get ready for this episode with Andy Holmes.
My name is Andy Holmes. I've been in door-to-door sales for the last 8 years. I'm 28, got 3 kids, and I work for 212, which is a solar sales group. We do our own in-house installs. It's called Ambia. That's who the installer is. Did 6 years in pest control, active pest control. Last 2 years, I've been doing solar, and honestly, door-to-door is very difficult, but very beneficial, not just because you can make a lot of money, but also since it is so difficult, there's a lot of skills that you can learn to just communicate better and obviously building revenue streams, making more money. That's one of the biggest things that if you're trying to get to 10K a month, then you definitely need to find a way to sell more or get more customers.
Did you know how many deals you've closed?
Oof, gosh. In pest control, I probably closed in between 3,500 to 4,000 pest control deals. And to put that into context, a 1-year contract of pest control, well, back when I was selling was right around $500. So, 4,000 times 500, that's a couple $1 million worth of contractual revenue. In solar, last year I sold like $5.5 million worth of solar. I installed 138 accounts. This year, I'm probably closer to like 4 million, but I'll actually end up making more on the 4 than I did on the 5.5. Just because there was more margin on those deals, if that makes sense. So yeah, I've sold a lot.
How many doors have you knocked on?
My first big breakout year was 2019, and that summer I knocked 27,000 doors. And the next year I knocked like 22,000. I'd probably say between 110 to 125,000. Could be close to 150, but I'm not 100% sure on that number.
You've knocked a lot of doors, no doubt. And so when you go out and start knocking doors, because everyone has a product or service that they're trying to sell, so a lot of people are thinking, hey, I should maybe go out and knock doors, but I don't know how, I don't know where to start. Where do you think is the best place to start when thinking about going to knock doors?
Figure out who your target customer would be, and then go try to find places where you're going to have a lot of that target customer, right? Like with solar, you want to find people who savings matter. Like a lot of people think, oh, you want to go to rich people, right? But that's actually not the case. Like I haven't paid attention to my electric bill in years, even before I started with solar. Why? Whether it's $200, $300, $400 a month, I don't know because I don't care. Because I don't like the $100 a month savings just doesn't excite me. You want to find somebody who saving $20, $30, $40 a month or a few $100s a year like makes sense. Okay. So I know my target customer. So therefore I'm not knocking in these multi-million-dollar homes. Oftentimes I'm trying to find middle class, maybe even slightly lower than middle class. So that way I can help them because those are the people who are going to care about my service. Okay. If it's power washing, or if it's window washing, it might be slightly different because a lower middle class family might not care about window washing, but the $1.2, $1.5 million home is going to see some hustler and be like, yeah, you can wash my windows. So I guess long answer to a short question is just know your customer, know who you want to be talking with, and then go find where you're going to actually be able to communicate with those people.
Okay, so choosing the right neighborhood is top one thing you got to look at before you go knocking is you got to pick the right place to knock.
You don't want to overdo that though, because sometimes people will just neighborhood hop too much. Where you water the grass, that's where it's going to grow. And so you want to make sure that you're choosing the type of neighborhoods that are going to be beneficial for you, that are going to produce long-term customers. But the other most important thing is just getting as many leads as you can. It's not just about choosing the neighborhood, but it's also talking to a lot of people in that neighborhood. Because if you only talk to 10 people, well, you could only maximize and have 10 sales, if you closed all of them, right? Chances are you're not going to close all of them. But if you can now find a way to talk to 40 people a day, you don't even have to be the best salesperson. Like, I don't think that I'm the best door-to-door salesperson, but I would make the argument that I'm slightly more analytical and I knock more doors and have more opportunities to succeed. And that's why I've been able to succeed more than your typical sales rep.
So if there's like a neighborhood that I've picked out in South Jordan and there's one that I picked out in Harriman, it makes more sense to knock the one in South Jordan and just keep going down the lane versus driving all the way to Harriman and then knocking that neighborhood. Like, it's more about the reps than neighborhood.
Yeah. And also just making sure A, you do a good job, and B, there's some kind of incentive that would make people want to refer you to a neighbor or a friend, when you're done. Hey, if you think I killed it, we actually give $100 off our next service if you refer me to somebody else who ends up doing it. I mean, you obviously have a big, beautiful home. I don't know. Do you have any friends or family that live nearby that you think it would be worth chatting with? And I don't know. Sometimes they'll have a name, sometimes they won't, but just asking for referrals in a very calm way and not putting too much pressure on it. That's just another thought on how you can have organic growth in a business that you personally own.
Yeah, I like that. I think that's a really good tip for people that are knocking on the door, because if they start talking to one person, that's just one lead, but you can immediately ask them, because if they like, know, and trust you, especially if they buy from you, you might as well ask them if they know anyone else, but you got to do it in that no pressure way.
Yeah.
How do you ask them in a way that doesn't put a lot of pressure on them?
So after offering some kind of incentive, you don't want to be like, who do you know that would be interested? Or, which of your friends can we call right now? Like, it builds a lot of pressure, and it makes it so they don't want to give you their friends' names, but they also are nervous about doing business with you again in the future. So what you want to do is you almost want to be like, I don't know if you have any friends or any family members nearby that you think would be interested. Notice that I'm saying, I don't know if, and then I'm planting seeds and planting ideas in their head as I'm asking, because they would be like, yeah, my mom might be interested. Well, is she working right now? Would you mind giving her a call really quick? And do you know how big her house is? Oh, maybe let's just give her a call. And just by planting the seed, by planting the idea without saying, can you call all your friends and family members? It's just, does anyone come to mind, somebody you think would be interested? And if somebody does come to mind, then they'll mention it to you. And I think that that's one thing that I've learned in door-to-door, which I think your listeners could really take advantage of, is when you're talking to people, make sure that you're asking the right questions in the right way. Because asking somebody, hey, can I do this? Like, can I power wash your house, or
can I detail your car, or
by being too direct about it, it might push people off. But another question that you could ask is like, hey, would you be completely opposed if I did this first one for half off just to show you how good of a job I'm doing? And then if you like it, awesome, I can come back in the future. If not, no worries. And you don't have to say half off or whatever, but would you be completely opposed? It's a lot easier for somebody to say, no, I'm not completely opposed, versus can I do this? And then they're like, it feels like a big decision to say yes versus I'm not completely opposed. Or who do you know that would benefit from my service versus I don't know if you have any friends or family members that you think would benefit or that would be interested in this. I mean, if you do, offer something. You want to make it an easy decision for them to give you the answer that you want.
I like that. So ask questions in a way where a no is actually a yes.
Yes, that can be. It's a lot easier to say no than yes.
Yes is commitment. And people are afraid of commitment, right? They don't want to say yes because then they feel this pressure now they have to buy because they agreed or whatever.
Yeah.
But if it's a no, that's like non-commitment, but they're also answering the question in a way where it can lead to further questions.
Yeah, and you want to build up full commitment. You know what I'm saying? Like if you're dating a girl, you're not asking her to marry you within a week. Why? Because that's a lot of commitment really quick. What you're doing is you're dating, you're getting to know each other, and over time, you get to that commitment. It's the exact same thing when you're getting prospects. Oftentimes, like rather than saying, okay, can you give me your credit card right now? Or can I get a full commitment? Just be like, oh, by the way, my name's Andy. What's your name? Mm-hmm. You get their name. Cool. Here, I just have to put it in my notes. Like, I know this is Chelsea Court. What's your house number? Okay, cool. And then most people have us do the whole house, first and second floor. Some people just have us do like the front. Would you want me to do everything or just kind of stick to the front of the house? And notice how I gave two options and I win on both of those. I didn't say, so what do you say? Or will you give me a shot? You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm asking questions. By them responding, I'm making it a little bit easier for them to, in a way, allow the sales process to continue. And I think that that's really important. Just like people who haven't knocked doors, just get people a little bit interested and then take them along the yellow brick road so you can get that yes.
Are you ever knocked in a neighborhood and there's a house that you skip, or do you knock every single door?
Yeah, if I'm knocking earlier in the day, like during normal working hours, I'm skipping houses that don't have cars in the driveway, that don't have the blinds open. Houses where I don't think anyone's actually home. I don't want to waste my time ringing the bell, waiting around. I want to skip over to houses that do look like they're home. If it's a super wealthy neighborhood, I might be knocking every door just because they're not going to have all their cars parked outside or things like that. But if you're knocking a little bit later in the day, like 5 p.m., 6 p.m., 7 p.m., then I'll give more benefit of the doubt to it doesn't look like they're home, but based on the time of the day, chances are that they are home. And same thing like Saturday mornings, 9, 10, 11, noon, I'm probably knocking most doors.
You just got to judge it based off time of day and what the home looks like, whether lights are on, blinds are open, and cars are home.
Yep.
So do you ring, knock? Is there a difference between those two?
Yeah. So some people say strangers ring the bell, friends knock. I kind of like that, but the way I've always done it, ring the bell. If you don't hear any movement within, let's say, 7 to 10 seconds, and give it a strong enough knock that if their doorbell didn't work, that they'll actually hear it. Then wait another 10 seconds or so. If you still don't hear any movement inside, don't sweat it. Like head to the next door. If it's a really big home, maybe give it a tiny bit more time. But the worst thing you can do is just be waiting around for a minute, 2 minutes, no one comes out, and you just wasted that full time when you could have gotten a whole nother potential not home out of the way in that same amount of time.
Okay, so ring the doorbell first and then knock.
Some people will just give it a knock right off the bat. I think that the key is not spending too much time waiting to see if somebody's going to come out and just maximizing the people that you can talk to. It's not about how many doors you knock, it's about how many potential buyers you can talk with. Because if you get a certain amount of decent shots up, you're going to make a certain percentage of those shots.
Yeah, so it sounds like a lot of it is about efficiency, because knocking doors does take a lot of time versus a phone call where you can jump right from one business to the next or person to person. You have to walk to their house, like you're physically out there knocking on doors. So you want to be as efficient as possible, because that stacked up through the whole day probably adds up to another 100 homes that you're knocking on.
Yeah.
I really have no idea what the numbers are.
No, you're good. You're good. It just depends on how many hours you're knocking. Yeah. You can probably knock 20 to 30 doors in an hour. You know, so just depends on how many hours you're knocking. But if you can get 30 doors in that hour instead of 20, you have 10 additional opportunities.
So how do we make the person answering the door feel comfortable? Because a lot of times they have these Ring doorbells with a camera, or they have a little peephole, or they have windows. Is there a way to make them feel more comfortable answering the door? Like, do you step back a little bit, or like, how do you do that?
So you want to make sure that they have enough space that they feel like they can come outside. Because if you're 2 or 3 feet away, they're going to feel like there's no room for them to come outside and you're kind of suffocating them. So I mean, 5 feet back, 7 feet back. Another thing, don't stand like directly like
square to them, facing them.
I typically will like turn sideways, lean against the wall, just because it's much less threatening posture, if that makes sense. And then another thing is like when they do open the door, like chances are they've had other people knock on their door before. Like you have to do something that makes you not seem like your typical door-to-door salesperson. So don't just jump right into some kind of pitch, some kind of presentation. I'll typically try to like confuse them a little bit. You have to build some kind of curiosity. So it's like they answer the door. Hey, what do you want? Hey, good. Sorry. I'm Andy, first off. I'm not sure if you've seen me. Are the Jamesons they're not on the corner. Are they one house or 2 houses in? I haven't even told them what I'm doing. I don't even have to tell them my name at that point. You almost want to seem like you're the plumber at the wrong house. Just be like, hey, you're a little confused, which makes them a little confused, which actually like makes them drop their guard. But in all reality, you just want to make it seem that you're not like a typical salesperson. That's more the vibe you're trying to give off, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So it sounds like we do need to pay a lot of attention to our body language and like how we're standing. Because if you're standing with your weight evenly on 2 feet and facing right towards them, that is a lot more confrontational and a lot more uncomfortable to talk to a stranger with. But it sounds like what you're doing is you're taking this little step back. So you're immediately saying like, I'm not here to do any harm.
Not to do any harm. And also I'm not like every other guy who's knocked on your door, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Also, it's a tip called mirroring. If somebody's really stern, really aggressive coming out the door and you're like, oh, I'm so sorry. Like if you're really passive at that point, well, now they're just going to keep bulldozing you versus if you're just kind of like assertive back to them. it actually gains their respect. In general, you want to make it so that way you portray confidence, but you're also not like a typical salesperson, because we've been trained our whole lives to say no to salespeople, like walking through the mall. You don't want to deal with them. You know what I'm saying? So if you come across like that, their defense mechanism is just going to say, oh, I don't want to talk to this guy, and they're going to try to shut the door. Other big thing, like don't like let a little bit of rejection at first get in the way. If your whole goal is to avoid rejection, don't be doing a business, right? Rather face the rejection and realize that what I'm actually trying to get is $10K a month. What I'm actually trying to get is financial freedom, so that way my kids aren't going to public school, or that way we can go on whatever vacation. Focus on what you actually care about. And if avoiding rejection is what you actually care about, once again, don't be doing a business. That's just a part of the path. So don't sacrifice your temporary comfort for what you actually are trying to accomplish.
Right. You mentioned earlier, like you want to mirror people because people do business with people who they like, and people like people who are like themselves. And so if you can mirror them, match their energy, they're going to be more likely to buy from you overall. Yeah. So what if someone's outside already? Like you're walking up on a home and people are outside either mowing the lawn or they're washing their car or whatever. You're not knocking on the door. Is there a different way to approach that?
Yeah. If they're mowing their lawn, like give them a wave maybe as you're coming up. But at the same time, like if they're hardcore busy, like give them the opportunity to like turn it off and say hi to you. Like I've sold to a bunch of people mowing their lawn, but at the same time, like leave them be a tiny bit. If they're outside, if they're just chilling or they're hopping in the car, they pulled in the driveway and you're already at the house. Just, hey, sorry to bug you. I'm actually, and then just go right back into it. And if they're like super worried or super like weird about it, just be like, oh, sorry if I'm catching you at a bad time. I can swing back by. And by not pushing them, it actually like intrigues them to be like, well, what are you doing? Oh, I'm actually the one who helped power wash the Johnsons on the corner. I was just seeing if, X, Y, Z. You want to make it low pressure enough that they can actually respond. Because if there's too much pressure, like there's too much interest on that girl, even if she thinks you're really cute, she's still going to say no just because it's way too much pressure.
It sounds like people would get really annoyed if they're really busy, hard at work, and you stop them. And if they're annoyed, they probably aren't going to really talk to you anyway. So there's not really a point in even trying to start a conversation with them.
And that's why you try to build a tiny bit of curiosity right away, because it's like if you can build some curiosity, they'll listen to you. Think about it as like a YouTube ad. No one wants to listen to the YouTube ad. We have 5 seconds before we have to click skip. They are giving you the human decency of your 5 seconds, and then they're clicking skip. Oh, hey, we're good. Hey, we're not interested, whatever. You have to build a tiny bit of curiosity or a tiny bit of interest pretty quick. Otherwise, they're clicking skip on you. And that's why I'm not trying to seem like a salesperson. I'm trying to build a little bit of confusion or curiosity, because they're like, what the heck? And now they're not clicking skip, which is what allows me to actually get far enough into my ad to hopefully convert them into a customer. And one small little tip for anyone who is knocking doors, like if they're just starting out doing it for their business, audio record yourself as you're doing it. Listen back. You're going to hate the sound of your voice. I always hate the sound of my voice, but ask yourself, is this me? Would I buy from myself? And if the answer to either of those is no, like if your mom was to listen to your pitch and be like, oh, okay. Like if it doesn't seem like you as a person, change some stuff up until it does. And if it's not interesting at all, if it's not engaging at all, like if you're not having any success, listen back and see what you can tweak so that way you can hopefully start getting more success.
So review yourself, and like probably hard to listen to yourself. I hated the way I sounded on a microphone when I first started recording podcasts, but I had to listen to myself so I could realize, okay, this is where I'm like kind of taking a little too long to respond, or here's where my maybe a little monotone or setting too many ums, ands, and buts, the filler words. So I like that. That's a huge tip.
Or you're just talking for a whole minute and a half before you even see if there's any interest. Mm-hmm. You gave your whole sales pitch, and then like, oh, I'm actually not even the homeowner. Let me go grab them. Or, oh, they're not even here. And so you're wasting so much time. Like, if they're not going to buy, just get them to click skip.
Well, yeah, and you made a good point there. So like, what if we knock on the door and it's not the homeowner that answers? It could be a kid. It could be a babysitter. What do we do at that point?
I don't want to say, are your parents here? Because you sound like a predator. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, like you're just trying to get to the final person, And if you say, hey, you look slightly too young to be the homeowner, could you grab them for me? It's a little funny because it's a 17-year-old kid, and they're like, oh yeah, let me go grab them. Or, oh no, they're actually not home. Okay, when would be best to swing back by to catch them? And if they don't want to tell you, just be like, are they typically working till 5? So I should just try swinging back at like 5:36. Like give them a few options that they can latch onto. If there's a lot of hostility, then just say, do you think they'd be interested in window washing? Do you think they would be interested in having the house power cleaned? Just give them the opportunity to be like, maybe. And if there's hostility, if there's no interest, just move on.
We already talked about this a little bit, but what is the first thing you say when someone answers the door? And let's assume it's the homeowner answering.
Okay, give me a product that I'm selling. I'll give you a quick little pitch.
Car detailing.
Car detailing. Cool. So I'll knock on the door. I'm not going to respond first. Okay, I'm going to knock on the door, and then I'm going to either be looking at my phone or my iPad, looking at some kind of paperwork that I'm doing. I want to seem slightly busy, or I just want to basically look in the opposite direction. So that way they're interrupting me. Okay. Respond how you would as a homeowner. Okay. So knock, knock, knock.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, doing good. Thanks for asking. I'm Andy. Okay. You've actually probably seen me, or at least one of my, the big white vans that you've been seeing around the neighborhood with the red lettering on the side?
Yeah, I think I drove by one the other day.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we were doing Nick's house the other day. I've actually been working with a bunch of different neighbors. I do car detailing. You probably go to Quick Quack and all that. A lot of neighbors have really liked this though. I see a bunch of shoes right here. You've probably got a bunch of kids, and if your kids are as dirty as mine, it needs a little bit more than just a Quick Quack run through. You know what I'm saying? I'll try to get them to laugh or something like that.
Yeah.
How many kids do you guys have?
We have 3 kids.
Oh, cool. Me too. My oldest is 6.5. Are yours kind of younger, kind of older?
We got one that's 6, one that's 12, and one that just turned 16.
Okay, so the 6-year-old and the 16-year-old are probably just as dirty, just in different ways. Long story short, because I'm already in the neighborhood today, we actually have a few different appointments. I just happen to have a couple openings for tomorrow. Normally, if you reached out to me online, we'd be charging way more, but since we're already in the neighborhood saving on drive time, honestly, I can hook you up and give you a really good discount. I see that you've got the SUV out front. Is that the car that you're driving? Is that, your wife's car?
It's my wife's car.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and I'm assuming you haven't had it detailed in the last week or two.
We've never had it detailed.
Okay, cool. Well, maybe let's do this. Here, if you don't mind, and it's okay if it's slightly dirty, do you care if I just do a quick exterior, we just walk around the car really quick? I'm trying to move them away from the doorstep and just be like, cool. Yeah, normally I'd be charging this much, but since I came to you, you're not calling me out. I have to give you a good deal, otherwise you wouldn't do it. I can drop it from this, take this amount off. So honestly, since I came to you, and I'm just trying to make sure that my guys stay busy because I'm paying them regardless. Honestly, I'd take a full $200 off. Do this first one for $349, and I'll do a full exterior. I'll do the rim shine as well if you want. You got a pretty sick truck. Probably not nearly as kidified as the other SUV. If you want, I could even vacuum that out. I wouldn't be able to do the same thing. I'll just toss that in for free. Would you want me to vacuum out your truck as well? Or instead of maybe vacuuming the truck, I can touch up the wheels? Would you want me to do the wheels? Would you want me to vacuum out the truck?
I'd for sure want shiny wheels, but, vacuum would be good too.
I'll tell you what. Well, tomorrow, what's your schedule like? Are you typically home during the day, later at the evening?
I work from home, so it's home all day.
Okay. Normally, I wouldn't be able to do both. Maybe let's do this. Because I do have a 9 a.m. appointment open, I'll do the wheels and the vacuum out just because that's my hardest appointment to fill. So you're kind of scratching my back, I'm scratching yours. And I think I mentioned this at the beginning, but once again, my name's Andy. What's your name?
Skylar.
Cool. Nice meeting you. Beautiful home, by the way. Super jealous of the truck. I'll make sure it's looking extra good. So it's Skylar. This is Chelsea Court. Here, I'll shoot you a text so you have my number just in case you're late from dropping the kids off from school. I'm assuming it's an 801.
Yeah.
And notice I'm not saying, what's your number? I'm just cool, I'll grab your number, shoot you a text. What's your number? It's probably 801 or is it a 385? Never am I ever trying to make them mentally choose. Am I going to give this info? But rather I'm trying to already get into a spot where they're naturally going. If I say, what's your phone number? It's do I want to give this guy my phone number? Versus, here, I'll shoot you a text really quick. That way you have my number as well. It's so much easier for them to just continue saying the number. Oh, no, it's actually a 210. Oh, okay. That's not Utah. Where are you from? Oh, cool. Yeah, my brother actually lived there for a couple of years. Most of the time, I would try to do it right then and there versus scheduling for the next day. But I would also try to highlight that you're a small business. You're the owner. You're taking care of, this is what puts food on the table for you guys. Just because people want to help out small businesses. If they think that you're a part of this big old chain, kind of thing. Like your listeners are going to be more like legit their own business, or they're co-partners or whatever, like co-owners. Like, hey, I'm actually one of the owners with this. Because we're small, we're trying to build our way up. I just want to show you kind of what we're doing. I mean, times are always tight. And so if I can find a way to help you guys out, and it also makes it so that way my kids aren't just having to eat oatmeal 3 meals a day. Like, I mean, I'd prefer for them not to always at least have sugar in their oatmeal, right? Like, try to get them to laugh, whatever. And I just want to highlight a couple of the things that I'm trying to do. I'm trying to come across as personable. I'm trying to be direct to the point, and I'm trying to give a reason why this benefits them, but also make it sound like the deal's like way too good to be true. Normally I'm $549, taking $200 off, but since I do have an opening because the Johnsons around the corner, they actually had to reschedule for a little bit later. Like, honestly, I'd even throw in this or this. I mean, I won't charge you extra for it. Do you want me to do that as well, or just stick to this? I'll even shine the tires on your truck for you. I won't charge you for it, but I do get that some people are really particular about no one touching their car. Do you want me to shine the tires for free as well, or should I just stick to your wife's car? And they're gonna be like, well, shoot, yeah, if it's free. Like, notice what I just did there. I made it an easier neural pathway for them to say, well, shoot, yeah, if it's free, like, yeah, I mean, do the truck. Versus, can I clean your wife's car?
They're almost saying yes without saying yes. You're agreeing, you're having them agree to something that's free. And when they agree to something that's free, they're agreeing to the paid portion of part of it too, but they don't even feel like they're agreeing to it.
Exactly. I might even say, if you really want, I could do your truck as well. I'd even just wrap it in for X, whatever it is. Like, I'm trying to make it so that way it's getting better and it's getting easier for the homeowner to just say yes. I want it to be a very painless decision. I'm not trying to make it this big old deal. I want it to be like picking up a candy bar at checkout. You don't have to think about it too much, or a pack of gum. Just making it so it's an easier decision based on asking better questions. If I had to say one thing, like, when you're trying to sell people, find a way to ask questions that makes it seem like a easy no-brainer, and also justify why you're making it better. Because if I say, hey, I'll do it for $349, and you say, nah, I'm good. Well, what if I do it for $299? No, I'm good. Okay, well, what if I do it for $199? Like, because there's no justification behind my price drops or me lowering my price, it's like, oh, this guy was going to charge me $349. Now he's willing to do it for $199. Something weird's going on. This is sketchy. You know what I'm saying?
It's a little too desperate.
It feels desperate. Yeah, that's a really good word. If they are like, you know what? Honestly, our car wash membership is like, it's doing fine. If they try to give me like some kind of like softer no, I'll be like, yeah, 100%. I mean, I'll tell you what. I mean, I know you're already paying the $40 for the car wash membership. I'm paying my guys $20 an hour, and I'm just trying to make sure that I don't have to send them home early, and also, that my time is worth it out here as well. I'll tell you what, $40, $20, just to make it worth your time as well. I'll drop it down $75. I'll just do this first one for $270, $274, just so that way I can keep my guy working. And I guess just do me a favor and notice how, like, that's another highlight one-liner. I guess just do me a favor. Since I'm giving you such a good deal, I don't want the Johnsons around the corner to get mad at me. Right now I just happen to be open for a few hours. Do me a favor. Do you know the Johnsons around the corner? Okay. Don't like shoot him a text and say, hey, he's doing my house for $270 and he's doing you guys for a little bit more. Like, I don't want them getting mad or anything like that. Normally I wouldn't be able to offer this, but it's just right place, right time. Like, can you do me a favor and like, just don't post it on Facebook, I guess, that you got a better deal than everyone else. Like, does that sound fair? And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get something very agreeable. Like, oh, don't worry, I don't even know those guys. Or, oh, don't worry, I won't say anything. What they're actually saying is, yes, you can do the service. And it feels like they got an extra special secret deal. And sometimes as I'm saying these secrets, I'll start whispering. Do me a favor. I'll look around over my shoulder. Don't text all the neighbors. Don't text the Johnsons and tell them that I gave you a better deal. Just because I'm basically breaking even on this with how much time it's going to cost and all the equipment. Is it okay if we just keep it between us? Like, does that sound fair? And all of a sudden they're like, oh yeah. I'm just making it such an easy decision for people to say yes. Because by them saying yes, I won't text all the neighbors. They're saying yes to your service. Or by saying yes, shine my tires for free, I got them to say yes to the part that I actually cared about.
When we're telling them we're giving them a discount because we're already in the neighborhood, do we make up those numbers, or those legit numbers, or how do we decide like what to say it's usually priced at and then what we're doing it for them for?
Depends on you, depends on your service, I guess. And it also kind of depends on what you're wanting to charge in the future. am I making up these numbers? Well, yes and no. Whatever you can sell something at is what you want to sell it for. You know what I'm saying? Like, especially if it's a service, you want to make it so that way you can maximize your margin, maximize how much money you're making. You're not doing a charity. Like, you're doing a charitable service, you're helping them out, but at the same time, every extra dollar you can make is an extra dollar in your pocket. So it's kind of a fine balance between, are you trying to create these long-term customers that keep coming back? Or you're realizing that, hey, this is a one-time transactional thing. It has to be worth it to you. If you're actually having $150 worth of costs just because product, paying your guy, whatever, you probably don't want to charge $160. The lemon's not worth the squeeze at that point. You might as well shoot for $250 and be okay with $200 so you make $50 or whatever your numbers are. So, I mean, most people have their kind of thought processes built in before. Like, if you're trying to build long-term business, you actually don't want to piss neighbors off too much, if that makes sense. Like, if you're charging $150 here, but you're charging $350 over there, and theirs is actually a bigger, more difficult car. So I guess long answer, you're kind of making up the numbers based on your specific business, but do what's going to make sense. If it's a win for the homeowner and a win for you, that's awesome. It doesn't have to be a grand slam for the homeowner. You don't have to win the game by 100 points. Maybe you just let them win by 10.
It sounds like we should look at what we can charge for and still turn a profit and have that be like our lowest number that we could, would possibly sell our product or service for. But then maybe also think about, like, ideally, what could you charge for this if you were to do the whole shebang, and tell them that's what you normally do it for. But then you can go down if you need to that lowest price that actually makes sense to do.
Yeah. Try to charge more than what your lowest is, right? Mm-hmm. And also, one other way that you can sweeten the deal is by adding extra value. Like, maybe
like a car freshener or something that costs you 10 cents, but that could be all the difference.
Yeah, exactly. Whatever that is. Like, by adding the husband's tires, since I already have all the equipment out, it's actually only going to take us like an extra 3 minutes. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There's more value than that extra 3 minutes. The equivalence in a price drop for the customer, a better deal, I could take $50 off and get the same or maybe less excitement than the tires. The tires cost me literally an extra $2. So if I can add $2, but it seems like I'm adding a ton of extra value, like, find ways to add value.
You might as well get as much out of it as you can because you're already there, everything's out. So if you can do just one little thing that will make an extra $20, but only takes, another 3 minutes.
Or that you don't have to drop an extra $20, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Or as you're halfway through the car, so you've already started the service, just be like, hey, if you want, I can just do the full truck for you. I know we were already gonna do the tires. Like, your truck's pretty big. I mean, if you want, I could just do the whole thing for $600. I wouldn't be able to scrub out the inside of the bed of the truck, but I mean, I'll still do everything else. Like, do you want me to do the full truck as well? Or, I mean, I don't know, maybe just the inside as well? I guess you tell me. I promise I didn't already get in your truck, so I don't know how dirty it is in there or how much work it needs. But I mean, if you want, I'm already here. And it's like, you've already started the service, so they're already kind of locked in. You're just maximizing your take home, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Does appearance make a difference in us being able to make a sale or not?
Yes, 100%. There's two trains of thought. One of them is make it seem like you're just salt of the earth, scrapping to make a living, willing to work and do whatever. Like, sometimes you'll have solar people wearing like a neon vest and like a tool thing on their side. They want to look like a worker, right? You for sure want to look presentable. Like, if you're mowing lawns, you might want to look like you kind of mow lawns a little bit, but if you're home improvement, if you're pool cleaning, like, look the part, but look like sharp with your part.
I've heard this before, and I don't know if this is true, but I heard that if someone's clean shaven, they're more likely to be trusted. So is that something that you teach, or is that true?
I think that's outdated. It used to be true. Just kind of like how if you used to show your ankles, it meant you were a floofsy. Things have changed quite a bit. I don't think it matters what you're doing as long as it looks crisp and it's not extreme. I'd probably try to eliminate fluff. Like, if you've got bracelets or you've got a bunch of chains or something, like, you're not trying to look cool. If you got your pearl necklace, like, what are you trying to accomplish? Are you trying to look a certain way? Are you trying to hopefully find your spouse on the doors? If you're not, then dress in a way that's going to portray confidence in you, as the businessman. I just think that if you've got a beard, if there's a chance that you look a little scraggly or homeless or whatever, eliminate it. Some people wear a backwards hat. If it's your thing, whatever. Mm-hmm. If you're going to wear a forwards hat, I'd probably say it's better. It just looks more professional, if that makes sense. Yeah. Somebody that they can trust.
Yeah. And so for women, it's don't wear a bunch of jewelry, probably don't overdo it on the makeup. What do you think there?
Try to look a little bit businessy. Don't wear like Daisy Dukes or anything like that. I mean, unless you're car detailing and unless that's what you're actually trying to sell is the experience. And I obviously say that as a joke, but just somebody that they can trust working on your house. If you look homeless, people are going to be like, what are the neighbors going to think? They're not going to trust you. In life, we're always judging people. It's human nature to assess a situation. And if they can't assess that you're trustworthy or assess that you're worth working with, because dude, you're working on their house, you're working on their windows, you're working on their car, or whatever it is. It's not some cheap thing. They don't want to trust some podunk kid. They have to be able to trust that you're going to be able to handle it. And if you've got all your bracelets, if you got whatever, like your super baggy clothes, trying to be cool, you're not actually angling towards what you're trying to accomplish. You're taking away, if that makes sense. You'll still get some people, you'll still get some deals, but chances are you're also leaving some deals that were like right on the fence where they don't end up buying.
What do we do when we can't close the sale right there, can't set an appointment, but we get contact information or permission to come back? How long do you wait before you contact them again?
First things first, if they say, do you have a card? Can I get your number? Something like that. They're trying to respectfully push you away to not make a decision right then. I'd be like, yeah, 100%. I can shoot you a text, grab their number. I'll start texting them, and then I'll try to build some kind of urgency. Like the reason why we're doing a discount right now is because we're just already in your neighborhood. We've got some other jobs today and tomorrow. Like I'll try to build some urgency of why it's not $549, why it's $349. I'll tell you what, since you're saving me so much time and gas money since I'm already here, and I can tell that you are interested, like first off, I texted you so you have my number, but I mean, if I was to take another $70 off just to make it worth your while, like, does that sound fair? And just trying to, like, I'm always trying to push it right then and there. You might think that it's a great thing because you've got 10 numbers, you got 10 callbacks, and a bunch of people are going to hit you up. Nope. Like you might get one or two of those, right? Always try to push right then and there. If they have to talk with their spouse, their husband, see if that's like, do they take care of that? Do you take care of that? Like, don't create this loop of continuing going back to people. See if there's interest and if you actually do need to come back. And if you do, schedule a time when you can. Like, don't be so hopeful and so desperate. You know what I'm saying? Like sometimes we try to be so respectful that we don't want to push at all. But at the end of the day, like everything in life has pushes, has deadlines, has incentives. And so create a desire for them to pull the trigger now.
So what can someone expect when they first go out and doing door to door? Because if someone hasn't done door to door, they probably haven't experienced the doors being just shut on them. I remember the first time I had a door shut on me. I was going around a neighborhood, knocking on doors, selling window cleaning, selling myself, what I was doing at the time. I had some success. Some people weren't home, but then I knocked on one door and it was the kid that answered. And I was like, hey, are your parents home? And the dad started coming to the door and he just immediately shut it on me. Didn't ask anything, but that I will always remember the first time I had a door shut on me.
Yeah.
So I don't know, what can people expect when they first start knocking doors?
Well, expect a lot of not homes. Mm-hmm. You're not just talking with qualified potential leads every moment of the day. Like that's thing number one. And number two is if people say no, or if they don't even give you a shot, that's not anything about your self-worth, if that makes sense. Like it didn't make you a bad person that they didn't want to talk to you. It just meant that they were having a bad day or they've been knocked by other door people or whatever. It's not like a personal rejection. And I think that that's really important. You're not going to make $10,000 your first day. Just trust the process, if that makes sense. It's an inexpensive way to get new customers. You will face some rejection. You will get better as you're going as well. I think it's just important to not get too caught up on the individual house or the individual no. Don't get too caught up on the individual yeses either. If you're going to go out and knock for 4 hours, you know what I'm saying? Well, go knock for 4 hours and say, hey, in this 4 hour time, on average, I'll get 2 people or I'll get whatever. And just trust the process. If you don't get any in those 4 hours, that doesn't mean you're not going to get any tomorrow or the next day. It's all about having the best odds possible.
What are common mistakes that people make when going door to door?
First off, being too much like a sales script. Okay. No one wants to hear a sales script. Second off, speaking too much. Sometimes you're worried about the price or you're worried about building a certain amount of interest. Just realize you've got to keep it moving. Because sometimes when you're talking to people, if you spend so much time building a rapport at the beginning, it feels like it's going to go on way too long. You know what I'm saying? And so like there's a happy balance between jumping right into it and being too slow at the same time. You have to keep it moving, because if you talk way too much, it just gets boring. And like when people are ready to say yes, when they're ready to close the deal, like that's another one, just close it. Quit overselling, quit trying to make it seem like it's the most grandiose thing in the whole world. Like if they're ready to say yes, just start scheduling them.
I've heard a lot of people say that. It's like as soon as they say yes and they agree to like exchange money, stop talking and just help them accomplish that. So if people want to learn more about sales, how to sell door to door, or just learn and know more about you, where should they go?
Yeah, I have a podcast actually. It's called Goat Guide. Basically just being guided from one of the greatest in door to door. I'm not saying I'm one of the greatest, but I'm interviewing a lot of people who are. Also, shoot me a DM on Instagram, Andy the Solar Guy. I'd love to help. I've actually coached people. I've coached groups, organizations over the years. My company's always hiring. Like if you're wanting to make some extra capital so that way you can create whatever business it is that you're trying to do, shoot me a DM, listen to the podcast. Like if you like anything, say, hey, that was sick. I heard you from Skylar's podcast. That's how you can get a hold of me or get more content from me.
So go hit Andy up and learn more about how to do door-to-door sales. And hopefully this was valuable to you guys. So Andy, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, of course.
My guest today was Andy Holmes. If you want to get in contact with him directly, go to his Instagram at Andy the Solar Guy, or go listen to his podcast right now called The Goat Guide. Links are in the show notes. Well, that wraps up this episode of Utah Hustlers. If you got value from this episode, let me know by leaving a rating or review on the podcast. We have a goal to hit 100 ratings before the end of the year. So if this episode was helpful, it would mean the world to me if you took a few minutes to do that. Either way, thank you for listening. And remember, it's not just about knowing what to do, it's about taking the required action. Until next time, keep building. Hey, want some help and accountability in your personal development and business? Sometimes the last thing we need to grow, expand, and take action is having someone to bounce ideas off of and to stay accountable to. If that's you, reach out to me on Instagram at Skylar Beitendorp, or go click the link down in the show notes where I do a free 30-minute call for anyone wanting to accelerate their growth. And hey, if it's a good fit, I'll change your life. If not, I will connect you to someone who will. Either way, I want to see you win, and we'll make sure that happens faster than ever before.